Imagine waking up tomorrow and pulling out your phone. But there's no Instagram, no Google, no YouTube, no TikTok, no apps at all. Just a device that makes calls and sends texts. Now imagine that's not a glitch. That's just life. Because the internet was never invented. No streaming, no social media, no online shopping, no working from home, no memes, no viral videos, no Wikipedia. Everything you do online, gone. Just like that. It sounds terrifying to some of you, and honestly, kind of peaceful to others. But the real question is, what would the world actually look like today if the internet never existed? The answer is going to surprise you. Before we dive in, let's talk about how the internet actually came to be. Because it didn't just appear one day. It was invented deliberately, and almost didn't happen at all. In the 1960s, the United States military had a problem. If the Soviet Union launched a nuclear strike, a single hit on a communications hub could knock out the entire U.S. command network. They needed a system that couldn't be destroyed by one attack. So they built ARPANET, a decentralized network where information could travel multiple routes to reach its destination. It was never meant for the public. It was a military tool, a weapon of communication. For decades it stayed that way. Scientists and researchers used it to share data, but ordinary people had no access. Then, in 1991, a British scientist named Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web, the system that made the internet accessible to everyone. That's the moment everything changed, and that's the moment our alternate history begins. What if Tim Berners-Lee never had that idea? What if ARPANET stayed a military secret forever? The first thing that changes is communication. In our timeline, the internet made the world feel small. You can video call someone in Japan from your bedroom. You can send a message to 1,000 people in seconds. Without it, the world gets big again. Letters make a comeback. Landline phones dominate. Long-distance calls are expensive, so people think carefully before reaching out. Relationships slow down. Communities become more local. Your neighbors matter more because they're who you actually interact with. And here's something interesting. Loneliness might actually decrease. Studies in our timeline show that heavy social media use is linked to increased feelings of isolation and depression, especially in young people. Without it, people are forced to connect in person. Local clubs, community centers, and churches become the social hubs they once were. But it's not all good news. Information moves slowly. If there's a natural disaster on the other side of the world, you might not hear about it for days. Medical breakthroughs take longer to spread between researchers. Governments can control the narrative far more easily because there's no Twitter to expose them in real time. Now let's talk about entertainment. Because without the internet, the entire landscape looks completely different. Blockbuster never died. Video rental stores are everywhere. Movie theaters are packed every weekend because there's no Netflix to keep you home. Television is king, but it's appointment television. You watch your show at the time it airs or you miss it. DVRs exist, but streaming never does. Music is still bought physically. CDs and later MP3 players dominate, but you buy albums, not playlists. Artists actually make money from record sales because there's no Spotify paying fractions of a cent per stream. But discovering new music is harder. You rely on radio, word of mouth, and music magazines, and YouTube never exists, which means an entire generation of creators, educators, and entertainers never find their audience. The kid who would have become the world's biggest gaming streamer becomes an accountant instead. The woman who would have built a makeup empire on Instagram never gets discovered. Talent that the internet unlocked stays hidden. Let's talk about the economy. Because the internet didn't just change how we have fun. It completely rewired how money works. Amazon never exists. Retail never gets disrupted. Malls are thriving in 2026. Main Street shops never got wiped out by online competition. Small local businesses actually have a fighting chance because there's no algorithm deciding who wins. But the economy is also smaller. E-commerce adds trillions of dollars to the global economy every year. Without it, that wealth simply doesn't exist. Millions of jobs that exist today, web developers, social media managers, SEO specialists, app developers, content creators, none of them exist. Entire industries vanish. Remote work never becomes normal. Every job requires you to physically show up. Cities stay dense because that's where the jobs are. The pandemic of 2020, if it still happens, is far more catastrophic because there's no infrastructure to keep the economy running from home. Now let's talk about something darker: politics and power. In our timeline, the internet democratized information. Anyone with a phone can expose corruption, organize protests, and hold power accountable. The Arab Spring happened because of social media. Whistleblowers like Edward Snowden could share documents with the world instantly. Without the internet, governments are far more powerful and far less accountable. State media and major newspapers control the narrative. If a politician does something corrupt, it only becomes a story if a major network decides to cover it. And major networks can be pressured, bought, or silenced. But here's the flip side. Misinformation spreads much slower without the internet. No Facebook algorithms pushing outrage content. No bots flooding social media with propaganda. No deepfakes. No coordinated disinformation campaigns. Political division, while still real, doesn't get algorithmically amplified every single day. So who's better off in this world? It depends entirely on who you are. If you're an ordinary person, you have stronger local community, more privacy, less screen addiction, and a slower but more peaceful information environment. But you also have less access to opportunity, less ability to learn anything instantly, and less power to hold authority accountable. If you're wealthy and powerful, you're much better off. Less transparency, less accountability, easier to control what people know and think. The gatekeepers of information, TV networks, newspapers, publishers, are back in charge, and they answer to advertisers and owners, not to the public. So what does 2024 actually look like in this world? Cities look similar but feel different. More foot traffic, more local shops, more people talking to each other in public instead of staring at phones. Libraries are packed. Bookstores never died. Local newspapers are still viable businesses. But the world is also less connected, less innovative. Scientific progress is slower because researchers can't collaborate globally in real time. Diseases spread faster because health alerts move slowly. Climate change is harder to coordinate a response to because there's no global communication infrastructure. And the wealth gap, already enormous in our timeline, might actually be worse because the internet, for all its flaws, gave ordinary people tools to build businesses, find audiences, and create wealth from nothing. Without it, the path to success runs almost entirely through institutions, universities, corporations, governments, that are controlled by people who already have power. The internet is the most complicated invention in human history. It has given us access to all of human knowledge, connected us across every border, and handed a microphone to people who would never have had one. And it has also given us misinformation, addiction, surveillance, and a loneliness epidemic hiding behind a screen full of likes. Would we be better off without it? Probably not. But we'd certainly be different. And some of those differences, the stronger communities, the slower pace, the privacy, are things a lot of us quietly miss even now. The internet isn't going anywhere, but maybe understanding what the world looks like without it helps us use it a little more intentionally. Drop your take in the comments. Would you want to live in a world without the internet? Or do you think we're better off with all the chaos it brought? Subscribe to Let's Talk Fiction for a new What If every single week. I'll see you in the next one.